Hi, I'm Nilanjan Adhya from IBM, and it's great joining all of you today at Amplify. I know many of you are product and growth leaders building the next generation of digital experience for your companies. I would like to use this occasion to share some of our perspectives from IBM from what we have learned around driving digital transformation in the company. For some of you, this may be familiar, but I'm hoping that we can start a dialogue both during this conference and after, that we can actually improve the understanding of what creates successful transformations. A little about my role. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of IBM's Cognitive Apps portfolio. But over the last several years, I've also been driving digital transformation across the rest of the company, across our hardware, software, and services organizations. So let's get to it. So obviously, IBM doesn't need an introduction for most of you. But what you may not have heard, that while we've been around for 100 years, digital innovation has been part of our DNA. We digitized Social Security back in 1936. We also digitized the airline reservation system in 1962. And over the course of many years, we have worked with industries in retail and banking to really create some core innovations like the UPC barcode and the credit card magnetic stripe that has really revolutionized those industries. At the same time, transformation is also something that we have had to do. I would even contend that you can't be a 100-plus-year company without having at least 6, 7 different eras of transformation. So the natural question that you may ask is that what really made IBM want to undertake a digital transformation, and what was the real triggering event? So let me address that. IBM at its very core is a company that works with large clients on really complex issues and brings together our expertise on industries and technologies and process to help solve some really complex business problems. So we do big really well. At the same time, we were noticing a trend in the last decade where even in business to business, individual users were making decisions that were influencing the choice of product as well. And we wanted to add a second dimension to our go-to-market. We wanted to be able to engage those individuals, whether they were a data scientist or a developer, and really drive mindshare with those individuals. At this point, usually people look at this and say, well, shouldn't this be easy? IBM is a large company, has a lot of resources and expertise. This should not be that hard. You may think it's easy, but it turns out to be more complicated than you may expect. And here's the reason why this happens. In a large enterprise like IBM, traditional go-to-market is about going big, and every instinct that the company has is about going big. Let's take an example. The user experience that the company delivers is really delivered face-to-face. We have large events through our marketing. We have face-to-face relationships between our teams and client organizations. We also help customers install products, drive solutions, complex solutions, and work hand in hand with them. So we are used to more of a face-to-face experience. But really, digital forces us to create a separate, different dimension to our go-to-market. It's really about virtual experiences. It's about focusing on micro experiences where oftentimes there is no human involved. We have to start getting better at that. Another example, thinking about our go-to-market. Our go-to-market is primarily top-down. We have relationships with CXOs in companies, and we work the go-to-market from a top-down manner. But digital forces us to think about digital transformation is about engaging users, and users need to be engaged bottom up. And so it's a different way of thinking about the go-to-market. And then products. Our products really go after highly complex issues at our largest clients and are built in a way to address those issues. They're not built in a way that individuals like to consume, which is show me a trial, give me a trial that I can use for a couple of days and really understand an initial value, and then we can take it from there. Products are not necessarily built in that modular way to address that individual need. I can go on and on with this, but you can actually look at it, everything from user experience to go-to-market, to product, to organization, to finance, to infrastructure, really needs to evolve. And it's just a different way, it's a different motion that a company like IBM has to undertake. And so within my team, we have this joke that digital transformation in a large enterprise is really feels like trying to make an elephant dance. Can you make an elephant dance? Can you teach it new tricks? Can you introduce a range of motions that it's generally not used to? And what I'm here to say is that yes, we can. And then yes, we have actually been able to do this even in a company of IBM size. And I'm going to share over the next 10 minutes some of those elements that drives this transformation. But before I talk about the work that we do, I want to take a step back and talk about the mindsets that we need, how we think about this problem. Typically, knowing that digital transformation touches so many aspects of a company, you would expect a big bang approach where we try to change a lot of big things at the same time. But when we started thinking about what that would involve and the disruption that it would create, we felt that we need to take a different mindset. And our mindset needs to be around improving continuously, but improving by 1% every day, and really believing in the power of aggregation, of improvement. So we came up with a couple of important principles in our transformation. Principle number one was this 1% principle. Believe in the power of 1% improvement every day, aggregating over time. The second principle was really around accomplishing liftoff. And this is really about teams not getting paralyzed by uncertainty when they're making decisions. And really using the fact that let's get started and let's learn and let's not try to pre-plan everything. So just as gravity holds a rocket down and the rocket has to escape gravity as the very first step, I think teams have to escape the gravity of decision paralysis. And the way to do that is to say, let's get something going. Let's accomplish the first thing that we need to accomplish. And then the last principle really follows from the second, which is the way to address uncertainty is to really experiment. Get something going, experiment, refine from that experiment. And so with that mindset, the first place we start applying is to applying in our digital transformation, that mindset is to really look at some key experiences that we are providing to the users. So one great example of these experiences, imagine what happens when a user is trying a product for the first time. They go through a sign-up page where they register for the trial. They get provisioned the trial, which is getting the trial ready for the user to use. They log in, they get started, they complete a few actions, they look at a few functionalities, they reach a wow moment, and then they convert. So you've started deconstructing a broad set of things into these micro experiences. With tools like Amplitude today, we are able to understand at a high level of granularity what's happening at each of those micro experiences and where users are having friction and therefore are dropping off. And very interestingly, this is what we found, at least in many of our experiences. There were really two parts in this flow where we had some friction elements. One was around provisioning. We found that if your provisioning time is 30 seconds or less, that's perfect for users. As you get to a provisioning time that are 2 or 3 minutes, then you lose about 50%, as much as 50% of your users. The second area that we found was extremely important was around the get started experience. After users log in, if you provide them with some help and guidance virtually, that shows them the capability of what the product could do and help them accomplish it, then they convert at 2 to 3 times the rate. And that was great. But imagine when you're thinking about the entire experience, this is just a small part of it. There are experiences in discovery, there are experiences in product consideration, around trials, around adoption, around renewals. As you string together these micro experiences, it could be several hundred small experiences. And really the power of data is to start looking at these experiences and understanding where those drop-offs are and starting to improve those experiences across the entire value chain. A funny thing happens once you start doing that, and this is where the power of incremental improvements daily helps. When you start improving those experiences at every part of the business, then a funny thing happens when you look back at 6, 8, 10 months, you start seeing that your go-to-market is starting to evolve. The go-to-market traditionally, which was around pushing products through channels that reach the customer, starts trying to coalesce around the user, the subscriber. And your go-to-market looks more like the diagram to the right than the diagram to the left. And you know this when teams start asking you a different question. So traditionally they would say, well, what do we need to do to get more sales through this channel? But now they say, well, what do we need to do with our channel partners to drive a better experience for our users? And that itself is, I think, a moment where you start seeing that digital transformation is changing mindsets. And that's when the flywheel starts really coming together. And once you get there, then the power of the flywheel around user experience starts really taking off in the company, and you start really making progress. I would be amiss to not talk about the role of data in all of this, because I know that many of you in the audience are data scientists and really care about how does the data enable delivering value at these micro experiences. And I would say a simple thing, that your data infrastructure needs to follow your engagement model. And at least within IBM, the way we think about this is that there are 4 big centers of engagement in a company. There is marketing, which is around discovery and early product consideration. There is sales, which is around relationships and opportunity flow. There's product, which is about actual usage and things like trials. And then there is customer success, which is around adoption, renewals, and helping drive usage. In most organizations, these 4 functions have their own processes, their own data, and they're not necessarily sharing this information. What we have managed to do within IBM is to get these functions to collaborate, move the data around these functions bidirectionally and in real time. And it allows us to really drive certain use cases. And a good example of a use case is, imagine a user struggling with some aspect of a product, and she tries to use it, she spends a couple of minutes with it, and then abandons it, and then logs out. Well, if the customer success information indicates that that user belongs to an account or a company that is a retention risk, we can bring the experience that the user had in the product with what we know about the retention risk of that account and create a personalized and customized offer to that user that could say, hey, we are happy to give you an hour of one-on-one support to help you, enable you to show you how to use this aspect of the product. And we can do that in real time. And that's actually a real use case that we have been driving. So a lot of the stuff is no longer theoretical, and it actually drives great outcomes. And let me talk a little bit about the outcomes across the business that we have driven. I would say that most of these outcomes are a result of our users really starting to engage with the product. And when users start engaging with the product, you immediately see improvements in Net Promoter Score. We have achieved up to a 30% improvement in Net Promoter Scores for many of our products. But the real reason that happens is that users are using and engaging more with products. And we can see that in the data. There's at least a 3 to 4x improvement in consumption and retention, and therefore a 4x improvement in even conversion rates like trial conversion. But also across other parts of the business, we see reduction in support tickets. We see reduction in support calls. So the effects of this actually permeate the entire business and really accelerates the transformation. So to end, let me summarize where we started. The digital transformation is hard, and it's especially hard in large enterprises. But there are some very simple principles that you can use, and what we have learned in trying to do this in IBM that you can use. And the key is to start thinking about how you're going to engage the user, the micro behaviors of continuous improvement, that driving improvement in all the micro experience, delighting at every touch point and understanding where the real friction points are, and really starting to see the flywheel in motion where your go-to-market over time goes from product-centric to user experience-centric. That's when you know that this is actually working. All of it supported by a data infrastructure that really integrates the 4 different centers of marketing, sales, product, and customer success. So the elephant can dance, and I think our experience shows that there's a way to do it. Well, I would like to thank you for giving me your time today, and I hope the best for you as you try to drive transformation in your own companies. Thank you.